Hi, everyone. Welcome to PMG's Fall Lunch and Learn program via Zoom. We're going to wait a couple of minutes to see if we can get a few more people on, and then we'll get started with the program. As I said, welcome everyone to our fall program. Repeating myself, if you like. Today's program is Marketing Budget and Return on Investment, or ROI. Let's go over a few things first before we get to the meat of the program. And I want to thank all of you for joining us during this still crazy time. I'm just still can't believe in September we're having to still do this virtually, but here we are. Thanks for taking the time out of your day to join us. Hope you're all staying safe and your family is safe. I do want to mention some board changes. As you'll notice, this is not Natalia. I am Sarah Giametti. I am the new president of the PMG board for the 2020-2021 year. And we also have a few other board changes, some new members. Also, Brant Hokanga is our president-elect, so he will be the PMG president for the 2021-2022 year, following me. Jesse Villa is our secretary for the board. And then our remaining board members at large are Bo Bombach, Ed Troxel, Ryan Perry, Nate Bauer, Natalie Luthane, and Nicole Wright. So feel free to reach out to any of us if you have any questions about your PMG membership or PMG in general. I want to thank all of our board members for supporting us for the year. I look forward to working with everybody in the upcoming year. We're also always looking for new board members. So if that is something that interests you, feel free to reach out to me and we can talk about it. Next, I want to thank our sponsors. Without them, we would not be as successful as we are, and we really appreciate their support. I first want to thank the North Bay Business Journal for their continued support. They are our legacy sponsor and have been one of our biggest supporters over all the years that PMG has existed. And then also our annual sponsors, Sonoma Media Investments, which you may know them as the Press Democrat, Sonoma Magazine, the North Bay Business Journal, and a few others. Next, I want to thank Kevin, Rebecca, and their team at Amatoro Sonoma Media Group. You may know them as Froggy 92.9, The River 97.7, KSRO 1350, and K Hits 104.9. I'd also like to thank our education sponsor, which is CoLab, who, when we can get back to meeting in person, all of our meetings are at their space in downtown Santa Rosa in the Press Democrat building. They have a really great co-working space. So if you're looking for a way to start venturing out of your house for the rest of the year, feel free to check them out. Their space is really awesome and it's a really inviting work environment. Let's talk membership. We want to encourage you, if you're a member, to log into your member accounts and update your profile information. Make sure it's up to date. Check your renewal status. Renew if you're close to being expired. You can find the link to the member portal on our website, pmgnorthbay.org. And that's also where you will find a recording of this video and the slide deck for the presentation, plus the last Zoom one we have is in there as well. And that just reminded me I didn't start recording. Somehow. Record. Now we'll record this program. And back to sponsorship, we're always looking for companies that align with our mission to educate, connect, and inspire the North Bay marketing professionals. If you think that your company would be a good fit, shoot us an email at info@pmgnorthbay.org. And our upcoming events, we're still keeping everything online for now until things change in the county. But for the foreseeable future, all of our events will be digital. Our next Lunch and Learn is October 29th, and we'll be talking about 2021 business strategies and shifting the short-term changes to long-term strategies. We're also co-hosting a marketing conference called North Bay Marketing Sessions in collaboration with Sonoma Media Investments. That's coming up in the middle of November, so keep an eye out for more information on that. And then our PMG member holiday party is December 3rd, with more details to come there. And then a few housekeeping rules for today. If you have any questions for Jose, who is our speaker today, Please make sure you put them in the Q&A, not in the chat. I will be monitoring the Q&A, and so that's where I will be pulling your questions from. The chat is communication between attendees and panelists, so really just commentary only. And then reminder to select all panelists and attendees for your message to get to everybody. You can also private message other people as you wish. The raise the hand feature will not be monitored, so please do not use that. And then Natalie, our board member, will be monitoring the chat and moderating that. And then the Q&A will be monitored by me. Also, if you see on the pretty screen around, if the PMG logo is backwards, in your Zoom settings, click the little caret next to the video settings, go into video settings and turn off monitoring. And now I would like to introduce our speaker, our guest today. A warm welcome to Jose Del Castillo, is the Chief Digital Revenue Officer of Sonoma Media Investments, where he is responsible for expanding revenue from the company's digital products, as well as offsite products and services. SMI produces 5 publications and associated websites, including the Pulitzer Prize-winning Press Democrat. Aside from heading up the digital advertising on the company-owned and operated websites and newsletters, Jose has led the expansion of client services to include programmatic digital display advertising, sponsored content creation, and amplification, targeted email, video, and social marketing. SMI now handles the digital media planning, buying, and ad creation for many of Sonoma County's top businesses. Prior to coming to SMI, Jose served as Director of Digital Sales at sfgate.com and North Bay Sales Manager for the San Francisco Chronicle. He also is owner, publisher, and editor of El Mensajero, the largest Spanish-language weekly newspaper in the Bay Area. He operated the San Francisco newspaper for 11 years until he sold the publication in 2004. He then founded spendlocally.com, an online marketplace of local merchants where he learned about operating an underfunded digital startup. Jose holds a bachelor's degree in communications with an advertising specialty from Rutgers University. Please welcome Jose.
Thanks.
Welcome, Jose. Thank you for joining us today.
Thanks, Sarah. You can hear me well?
I can.
Okay, good. It's a little odd. I can't hear myself, and it's a little odd speaking to a group that I can't see. So, but thanks for the nice intro. Yes. So, just a little bit about me before we start the slide deck. I think when I put in my bio about Spend Locally and my ownership of the Spanish language newspaper El Mensajero, which Sarah did a pretty good job there. The reason I put both of those is because they led me to a lot of what I'm going to be talking about today in terms of setting up your marketing budget and understanding what you're tracking and applying enough marketing pressure to survive. With El Mensajero, I did a good job with it. With Spend Locally, I didn't. And we talked, that's why we have failure. So I'll get into that in a moment. But yeah, that's about it. Please just shoot questions in. And Sarah, feel free to interrupt anytime you get a decent amount of questions or I'm on a subject that people have questions about. All right, let's go on to the deck then, please. All right, so here we go. I'll give you a second to read that. But this is something that seems to happen whenever we're talking to clients. They say, oh, yeah, everything's great and we can go along with our marketing budget until revenue drops, which right now we're in that, right? We're in a period where every small business, medium business, large business is actually having revenue problems. And immediately they start cutting budget. What drives me crazy about this is, if the ROI is positive, there's no reason to cut marketing budgets. In fact, if ROI is positive, you should be increasing it. So, but again, we don't hear that. So I'm gonna, this is kind of a with this group. I know many of you, we're all marketing professionals. I don't know what levels you're at and how much experience you have. So excuse things if I start off a little basic, but and then we'll kind of build up. So in any case, I do want to talk about how marketing budgets by industry are set up. So this is from the CMO survey from Duke University, and when you break it out, they surveyed chief marketing officers for many companies. Obviously, if you're a chief marketing officer, your company has a little bit of size, even though they said that the majority were under 25 million. That's 25 million, not 5 million or less. But you can see that 7.5% of total revenue is spent on marketing. And I do want to point out, as I said with my failure, that 20% of businesses fail within their first year, and it goes up and increases every year. And at year 10, 70% are gone, unfortunately, and fail. And a lot of that has to do not with just marketing budgets, but it's a big portion of it in that, if they didn't allocate enough budget to start, if they didn't take care of all of their finances and set up their all of their budgets to start, that's one of the main reasons that people fail. So speaking a little more about small businesses, again, Small Business Administration says 7 to 8% of gross income should be put towards marketing. And if you're at under $5 million a year, if you're larger than that, you can actually spend a little less. Established companies can get away with it, but if you are a new company or a smaller company, that's the range that is thought of. Now, that is at a 10 to 12% profit margin, net profit margin, which nowadays is kind of tough. There are many companies that don't quite make that profit margin. Grocery never has made it, and will continue not to have it. Their margins are usually 3 to 4%. Restaurants also usually 3 to 4%. So that 7.5% is high for those industries. But if you're talking about furniture, jewelry, those companies not just have a lot of gross margin on their products, but have a lot of net profit as well. So, all right, sorry. So this is where people spend it, obviously, right? There's a ton of variance in how you set up your marketing budget. One thing that in all of my reading and looking out over the years, one thing that does get confused that I want to talk about is that a lot of people consider their when they're setting up, or even on an annual basis, if their creative branding and their logo creation, things like that, and their web design as part of their marketing budget, that should be completely outside of it. Those are table stakes. A website nowadays and website creation is the same as having a physical location. So, you don't put having your rent at a great location as part of your marketing. Yes, it is part of your marketing, right? Because hopefully you get more foot traffic in that great location, but it's definitely not part of your marketing budget. A website should not be part of your marketing budget, straight up, in my opinion, and actually in the opinion of most in that CMO survey. They do not include websites in that. So they do include all of the things: paid media, trade shows, events, and different services that they might use. I just want to say we're going to go over a bunch of things, and I'm going to touch on different media, but really we're not here to really talk about media. I want to get into more on the budgeting, how to figure out ROI, more than media choices. But if you have questions on media choices, feel free. I also want, just real quick, is that the nowadays a lot of as you know, a lot of direct-to-consumer companies have come around. You got the Casper, all the mattress companies. You've got the deodorant companies. You've got toilet paper. You've got all these things that are direct-to-consumer. They are doing two things that I want to just point out quickly. One is that they are spending a lot more in marketing than most companies, and they're really monitoring their ROI on that advertising. They're also setting up really great marketing campaigns that can't be duplicated. I was listening to a podcast with the founder of Native Deodorant, which later sold to Procter and Gamble for, I think, $800 million. And he said that the reason they were so successful was because they created a marketing plan that no one else could duplicate. So you see that now. I think I'm a big football fan, and last week, the new SoFi Stadium in LA opened, and SoFi is doing something that most people aren't. So, in any case, there's all the things you can do on this list, but there's a lot that I've left off. Obviously, we're not limited to that. All right, well, let's talk about what most small businesses in Sonoma County are like. Sorry, this is a little small, but Sonoma County has 1,100 retailers. It's pretty much the biggest segment out there, so we're going to talk a lot about retail. And the average annual sales for those is $500,000. Not a huge amount. So, and if it's an average, that means that some are less or some are more. But if you take into account that 7.5% that the CMO survey says and the Small Business Administration, they should be spending $37,500 in marketing. And Sarah asked me when I sent this deck to her, does that happen? I said, not that I know of. Now, I am not privy to a lot of the small businesses and their entire budgets. I only see what they're spending with Sonoma Media Investments. So they could be spending a lot more in other places. But, in terms of, they could be doing radio or out of home, et cetera. But what I am seeing is more, I hate to say it, but probably in the $5,000 range for most small businesses, which is 1% if they're on average. The other thing I want to point out in this scenario, though, is that if you look at most business planning, when you're talking about profit and loss, you kind of build up, revenue. So the first line is expected revenue, and then the second line is saying the marketing budget. So if you were to say 7.5%, that is that number month over month with increases. However, when I was with El Vencero, and I was writing my business plan, I used a book way back then in 1995, and actually read a full book on business planning. And one of the great takeaways I took was that your marketing budget should be front loaded and back loaded, and you should be looking at where you want to be. So instead of saying, okay, my first month I'm going to have $7,000 in sales and I'm going to spend 7.5% of that. Now you look at your total year of sales. I'm going to be at 500,000 for the year, and I'm going to spend 37,000 in marketing, and I'm going to put that money aside along with my rent for the year. So that's how much money I have to raise or have to go into for this business. And I'm going to spend a lot of it on my grand opening, on the kind of months right after the grand opening. And then if you're looking at this for the year, you could say, if month 10 is October, November, December, then you would also heavy up during fourth quarter if you're a retailer. Third scenario I'm hitting the wrong button, guys. Sorry. Third scenario is if you are at that 12%. There you're spending $60,000 a year on $500,000 in sales. Hopefully you come into your company with deep pockets and ready to take on the world. And there are, as I said, that D2C those are the folks who are doing that. They're spending a lot of money up front. I can think even Groupon years back was spending more money to acquire a customer than they were making on the customer, just because that's what they see as a long-term investment. All right, I'm going to take a quick second. Sarah, any questions?
We don't have any at this time. Just a reminder, everyone, if you've got questions for Jose, drop them in the Q&A, not in the chat, so that I can ask Jose your questions.
Thanks. All right. So now you know that we're going to spend we've got our budget, whether it's the 37.5 or it's the 60,000 for our business, and now we hope that we're ready. And whenever my team or I talk to a new business, or forget it, even a business that's been around for quite a while, these are the things that they want to do. They say they want to increase their brand awareness. They want to be top of mind. They want to get more traffic to their website. They want to get more foot traffic. Those are all things that people say. I swear to you, I can't think of anyone else who really comes up with something that's not on this list or something like it. And when I hear that, I basically say, "No shit, Sherlock." That is, again, these are kind of table stakes. Those are the end results many times of a marketing plan, but really shouldn't be your straight up marketing plan, how you're setting up your budget. Excuse me, my tape. So, what we want to talk about are SMART goals. So, I'm sure many of you have seen this, but specific, measurable, attainable, realistic, and time-bound goals. When I'm talking to clients and they say that they have those, they want to get more foot traffic, or I want to know something very specific with that, and we try to coach them through that and say, okay, what can we do that we can measure? Because the only way you know your ROI on these things is actually to measure. So you have to have your goals set up properly. So in this case, I've got two goals. I'm going to go quickly with number one, and that is that you want to increase web traffic. Everyone wants to increase web traffic. That seems to be a common refrain. But in this case, if you were to set that up as a SMART goal, then it would be that you're going to increase it by X amount in X number of months. That way it's measurable. You can track it every week. It's attainable. You can set up, how you're tracking. You can say, okay, this was my history, and this is how I want to do it going forward. And then, whether it's you can work on it with your budget to get make sure it's realistic. And again, the time bound almost goes back to the specific. It's just, yes, it's time bound. I'm going to do 3 months. But what I really like more is really setting a really very specific goal. I talk about this all the time with kind of, if you're a pizza place, what's your Tuesday night delivery look like? Can we fix your Tuesday night delivery? Can we get more people to buy pizzas on Tuesday nights and have them delivered to their home? That's kind of the goal. In this case, I'm using an example of I've got sofas. I've got 10 floor models, and I have to get rid of them in the next 30 days because new ones are coming in, and I don't have room on my floor for them. So that's perfect. It's measurable because you can track the sales of those particular sofas and get them off your floor. It's attainable because you've already selling one sofa per week, so you can just up that a little bit. And again, realistic because you can set your marketing, all of your marketing, on those clearance models to get rid of them, and it's great for tracking it later. And yes, time bound because it's in 30 days. You can get rid of them. So again, as I keep hitting the wrong button, sorry guys. Okay, so again, if you look at, I had a slide up earlier that showed kind of the entire list of different media that you can do. This is the global ad spending that you could be looking at. You could use this if you're a large company to say, okay, this is kind of how I'm going to set up my marketing, put those different percentages into the percentages here. However, Sonoma County, we don't have any TV stations that are local, so that kind of like cuts that out. And also, small budgets aren't conducive to TV. It's expensive. Sorry if anyone's in TV out there, but out of home. So if you're doing a sofa sale and out of home's hard, it's hard to set up quickly. So we're going to ignore that for now. It's not to say out of home doesn't have its merits, but right now we're going to skip that for this media plan. That is that we're going to do for the sofa retailer. Newspapers, nice and quick. You're able to get an ad into a newspaper quickly, and you can run over your period. We're going to talk about how to track that. Radio, also pretty quick. You can get something up on the radio in not too long a time frame, and production costs are usually baked in or inexpensive. Magazines we're going to put aside just for this one because it's a 30-day, and it's trying to change out the cycles of magazines with that. Cinema we're gonna ignore because cinema's not happening right now. And then online display, which we are going to include. Search we're going to leave out for now because search, depending on your type of retailer, I find that search engine marketing, pay-per-click, works best for online retailers. In this case, there's nothing online, but I mean, it definitely could be used. But we're pretending that this retailer has limited budget and limited time. Social media, obviously the darling, and everyone can use that. So we are going to include that. And then online video, we're going to skip right now because we don't have online video assets. All right, so that's kind of how I set up then a campaign for this sofa clearance. And we're going to talk real quick about how we know it's working. So here's a sample media plan that we're going to do for this. And again, I'm just talking about budgeting and ROI and how you can track your ROI. Your media plan may vary, and I'm not holding that against you or saying anything about these being the best, but they are. Just kidding. So in this case, as I said, newspaper ads, we're going to put 30% of our budget. Well, let me actually jump down to the bottom. So this ad campaign is I've got $5,000 going to put towards this. Why? Because I expect $12,500 in revenue, total revenue, and that's basically a break-even point for me because of the cost of the sofas. So I'm going to make $1,500 if I'm this retailer. Might not sound like a lot, but we're going to get into lifetime value a little later. And so I'm willing to do this. I'm willing to run these sofas as a kind of loss leader, and not get too much in terms of my ROI, but I mean a bit. So again, I'm going to put 30% in newspaper, 30% in digital display, 15% into Facebook and social, 25% into radio ads, and I have something no cost to me, and that's my email newsletter. So I'm going to set up a campaign with these and then track them. So tracking or attribution. I'm often asked. So the great thing, I've been working in digital for many years, and the great thing about digital is you can track it. The horrible thing about digital is you can track it, and that is that lots of people put that budget in there and expect exact response that they can track, usually to last click, meaning that if someone comes in from Google, they give Google that attribution. They don't mind it so much with newspaper ads, but they don't really pay attention to it, and they don't mind that they can't track. But you can track newspaper ads. So this is how a couple ways to do it, and there are others. But first thing, if in Google Analytics, if there's an annotate function, which I'm going to show you in a couple minutes about how to set up, but there's an annotate function where you can just say, okay, I'm running 4 Sundays. I'm going to mark those 4 Sundays in my Google Analytics so that I can see if there's any spikes. I'm going to set up a specific landing page URL for the ad. It could be a bit.ly, it could be just a custom URL. So it could be sofa store / newspaper ad or something along those lines. So you can track that. And then you can also have phone call tracking. Set up a custom phone number with remote call forwarding so you can monitor any phone calls coming in and questions about the sofas. For digital display, obviously in Google Analytics, you can annotate each day. You have a high impact ad, and then look at the traffic for that. Obviously, use UTM codes I'm assuming everyone knows what a UTM code is in this group, but UTM codes for tracking and campaigns and seeing direct click-through from those ads. You can set up a goal form. You can set up a goal in Google Analytics for a form fill where someone might ask a question about the sofas. In this case, I don't know how many things you might do, but sometimes you're on the web at 11 o'clock at night and you can't get to a retailer, so you can drop in a form. This is used a ton in auto. Auto dealerships do it all the time. And then you can install view-through pixels for your reporting from your media partners or your demand-side platform. So I'll get a little more into the view-through pixels in a minute. And then obviously your media partner reporting, if you're running that with through a DSP or through directly with us or another company that sells direct digital display, then they have reporting for you in terms of impressions, click-throughs, and they are who do your view-through pixels. And then for Facebook, other ways that you can track, obviously, in Google Analytics, you can use, again, a UTM code for tracking campaigns. You can set up your goals and funnels. You can do on Facebook, quite good in insights, although I still think they could do better, and I wish their user experience for their ad manager was better. It's pretty clunky, but you can use that and grab their Facebook pixel, drop it onto your site for reporting from Facebook as well as and in their platform, as well as setting up retargeting campaigns later. And then you can look at the clicks and how many people are coming through and your click percentage, etc. For radio, again, phone call tracking. You can set up a secondary phone call tracking number so that you can keep those two apart between newspapers and radio, and also an easy URL that people can remember, as a lot of radio does happen while people are on the road, driving along, or just not in their homes. And then in your email newsletter, obviously in Google Analytics, you can set up the goals and funnels again, and you can use the UTM code. And in your email platform itself, you can see your number of opens, clicks, unsubscribes, etc. And then there's a ton of other ways that you really should be looking at attribution if you're a small, any size retailer. Sorry. But obviously, do the sofa sell during that time period? That's going to be probably number one to know if things worked. But you get lots of retailers to go, well, they would have sold anyway. So that's how retailers talk. So that but you can see that's number one, I would say. Obviously, what's the selling price of each sofa and the total revenue? And then what else was purchased in conjunction with the sofas? What was the total revenue for those going along with those purchases? I don't know about you, but when my wife and I go into a furniture store, we never walk out with one thing. We might go in looking. Last time I was in there, I was looking for a chair. We bought a chair. Great, awesome. And then we bought a table and a lamp to go along next to the chair. So those are obviously things that should figure into your ROI, not just the sofas. How many customers renew and repeat? What are the addresses and zips of the buyers? Again, most modern point of sale systems are going to collect all this, so you just need to get it out of your point of sale system. The customer sign up for your newsletter, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. I'm not going to have to read them all. And then, was there a general increase in web traffic and percentage of that? I do see a lot of people kind of ignore that, and they really should look at that. If you're running an ad campaign, you should be getting increases in your web traffic, and those increases are going to look like they come from Google, but they're actually coming from your media and what else you're doing and driving people to your website. Now, they might not go in the same manner. They might not just type in sofa store or whatever that I used before. They might go to Google search and do sofa store Sonoma County. That's not Google driving that. that's your media plan that's driving that. And people, don't remember a URL exactly, so they're doing those searches. So those are things that you should be looking at along the way that are a little harder to give exact attribution for. Then there's obviously, human. When your salespeople are on the floor, or you're the business owner and you're on the floor, how did you hear of us? Is a common question, and people misremember all the time or may lie. They don't want to say they saw an ad somewhere. They don't want to say, or they just forgot. Often they'll say, "I searched for you on the internet," and it could be because they were served 10 ads elsewhere and saw you on Facebook, but they just didn't want to say it that way. And then, depending on your system, did anyone buy after filling out the form that we did in the first part? That's going to take a little bit of syncing, who bought and who filled out those forms. So, in terms of the annotations that I was talking about, this is what it looks like. There's a little, sorry for the size of this, but to the right, you can see there's a little button that says create new annotation. This is in your audience overview. And in your, you can find a date, click on it, and say, what it was. So in this case, this is our traffic during the recent fires. So you can see that the Wednesday after the fires started up, we had a huge, we had a steady increase. That's kind of dropped off since then. So that is something that you can put in there, but say, here's an annotation for when I ran print ads or when I ran high impact rich media ads. Okay. For those of you who have worked with conversions in Google Analytics, you can set up, as I said, a goal, and then you can look at the funnels and see how far people are going down the goal and whether they completed. In this case, we're in the sofas that we're talking about. It's for filling out a form. How many people, again, are going to fill out a form for a sofa? Don't know, but it's something that you can definitely monitor. It's worth setting up at least in the first time so you can see how it goes from there. And again, as I said, I do a lot of my shopping at night when I'm not working. So often I can't respond or I can't ask a question. I can't call a retailer. I'm horrible with remembering the next day to do it. So I do fill out forms online. I was looking for a car a couple of years ago. I made the mistake of doing that on a Sunday night to about 10 different dealers. And boy, I was slammed the next morning with emails and calls, but perfect way to track. Again, in Google Analytics, for those of you who know UTM codes and campaigns, this is where you see it. So we get a ton of people who, when we run ad campaigns for them, well, this is something that we set up for every advertiser that we have. We set up a UTM code so that they can actually see it in their campaigns and they can see direct click-through. If you just use referrals in audience section, you won't see every referral. For some reason, Google Analytics drops off a lot of things that are served through an ad server or other means like that. So they won't set that up and won't show the referral. In this case, a UTM code shows it it's not perfect, still not 100%, but it's to a much better degree. And then in terms of what your partner should be providing to you or what you should be able to get out of your DSP. In this case, we show, this advertiser runs high impact media every Wednesday. And so we can show the big days where they get lots of impressions as well as lots of clicks. The yellow bars are impressions. The blue line is clicks. So they can see. And when you have, this is also great, so you can start checking on your creative and other things to see, why did that first bar, you had more impressions but fewer clicks compared to the second bar, which had kind of, a different ratio. So, and circled on the bottom right, I'm going to zoom in on that, is your CTR. So you have your impressions, your clicks, your CTR, click-through rate, right? As well as your view-through conversions. So we call that a visit rate. That means that view-through conversions are people who did not click on an ad, but saw the ad and then went to the client's website. So that's reported by dropping a pixel. We give a little snippet of code to our advertisers who then can monitor that, and it changes the view completely, because most people outside of who I'm speaking to and who are on my team, etc., don't click on ads. That's why click-throughs are so low. What they do is they open a new browser tab, and they and they do a search from there. So Google loves taking credit for that, but that's not the true attribution. So we like to show it. This tool of view throughs is fantastic, and then we can say, okay, your visit rate was closer to 1%, not 1/10 of 1%. So great to see, and we can also track it by ad itself. Now, when I say we, this is something that we do at Sonoma Media, but any of you actually have this available to you through most of your DSPs, demand side platforms, when you're buying digital display. And if you have any questions about how to set it up or anything along those lines, just give me a yell or ask a question, and we can help find it in your DSP. And by the way, if your DSP is Google Ads, it's there as well. All right. And then I said phone call tracking. So the phone call tracking is, in this case, we use a company called Marchex. They're pretty standard out there. There's a couple others out there, but great thing about remote call forwarding, if you aren't using it for a retailer client, is that you can see whether an ad came in, whether a phone call came in, what the source was, if you use different call numbers for your different media sources, and then how many leads per day you're getting, were the phone calls answered, how many went to voicemail, because if you are finding that a lot of your calls are going to voicemail, that's something you can fix. So on top of it being a great attribution method, it's a great customer service method, because and we've had some clients that we listen, so you can listen to the recordings if you choose to, and we've had some clients that you can hear horrible, really bad phone etiquette. So that's perfect, to bring it back up to your advertiser and say, hey, this one person you have answering the phone, maybe they shouldn't be. So so before we go on to then attribution and media results, take a break real quick. Sarah, any questions yet?
We do. And a couple things. Sorry, everyone who is seeing fuzzy slides. In the chat window, I dropped a link to a PDF of the slide deck. So you can at least look back at what Jose had already gone over, and you can follow on for the remaining slides. And then I do have a question from Kelly. She asked, we are a local Sonoma County company, but we are more in the 18 to 22 million business. What do you suggest the target marketing budget should be for someone like us? They have been in business and the same industry for 30 plus years.
So great question. Not knowing a whole lot, I think that's it depends on your industry and your net profit. So the 7.5% that I said before was on a net profit of 10 to 12%. So if you're in that range, then you're going to be in the 7.5% of your total revenue. If you have thinner margins, then you'd want to probably pare that down a bit, maybe into the 3% range, 3 to 7% range, instead of 7.5 and up. If your margins are higher and you got great ROI on your ads, then go crazy with it, as long as your ROI is positive. Anything else, Sarah?
Nope, that was the only question I have at
Okay,
this time. Reminder, everyone, if you have a question, please drop it in Q&A. And if we don't get to it before Jose's presentation ends, we'll get to it at the end.
great. We'll go back then. So, okay, so we talked about phone call tracking, and now those are all the different things that we're going to use for attribution. And now let's kind of look at some sample results and what we would figure out, how we would figure out our ROI. So the newspaper ads, I'm not going to read through everything on this slide, but let's say, the newspaper ads brought in X number of people to your URL. You've got to track that. That's awesome. You get to see it. You got to see the phone calls, and if you tracked in your phone call platform, the phone number. Oh, also, I'm sorry, if they have caller ID, then also it gives you their name, so you can, put that up to your POS and compare that to your point of sale, and you can see that you sold one sofa straight through that original phone call, so you know it came from the newspaper. And then obviously, when you're asking people on the floor, you say, "Hey, did you see our ad somewhere, or how did you hear of us?" Newspaper readers seem to say they saw the ad more. I don't know why. I've been working in this business for a long time, and they just seem to say it and be more trusting than others. Um, Digital display ads, you can monitor, obviously, direct clicks to your website. You can monitor, see your view throughs, and then your form fills. Again, there's that pixel that we talked about, the conversion pixel and the view through pixels, where it can see when someone filled out a form directly, as well as through the Google Analytics goals. And we can see how much revenue it did. Facebook, we can see that there were lots of clicks to the website. What I find with Facebook, which is a fantastic medium, as much as you might hate their politics or whatever else and what they're doing to us as a society, enough politics. They do give, they get a lot of people to your website. What I do find, though, is that conversions are lower. That's just what we've seen with our with what we've done. It's at a little lower rate than most. Depends again on your product, though. Events does work really, really well for, but free events especially, and online events right now going on like this one, probably Facebook's a great driver. Radio ads, as we said, we can see the phone calls. I mean, if you were to do something very specific, you could say that, if you did a special day, in this case, we didn't have the money to do a remote, but if you were to do that, then you could also monitor your web traffic and other things after doing that, and your phone calls, obviously. Email newsletter, in this case, we had 21% opens, which is about average for a retailer. So you see generally about 18 to 22%. And then a 10% click through from click to opens, which is again about average when you have a list that you've built up. In this case, our sofa retailer has a list that they've built up on their email newsletter, but no one bought sofa for some reason. Well, maybe they did, because it's here we have unattributed. So you got one sofa sold to someone. They didn't answer your questions. They didn't say they called ahead. They didn't call ahead. They didn't fill out a web form, and they didn't say they saw your ad. Oh no. Maybe you had a bad salesperson on the floor that day, and they didn't get that information out of them. So, and then also, again, as I said, when you're looking at your Google Analytics and you're seeing your traffic for the entire period, did it increase? And here we see that, there was unattributed direct website traffic. So people went straight to sofastore.com, at a higher rate than normal. Or Google Analytics is really bad with keywords nowadays, unless you're actually buying Google search. But you see more people searching for your name, so those increased, and you can say, okay, there's a month over month increase. I think that's attributed to my advertising. Helpful. So in terms of optimization, so we know everything that's happened. We've measured it. We started with SMART goals, and we wanted to sell those 10 sofas. So we have this goal, and we say, okay, I'm going to do this, this, and this. In this case, how we would look at optimizing. We'd say, okay, let's now tweak the budget. Let's raise the budget for the newspaper ads a little bit since they performed well, but we're going to change it and make the ads smaller and more frequent. For digital display, we're also going to raise the budget. We're going to do A/B creative testing because we didn't do that. I have a drop off there. Sorry. And then the Facebook ads. We're going to keep the budget at the same amount, but we're going to test creative more. We're going to do 2 different types of posts, and then we're also going to geo-target the zip codes where you got the sales. Facebook's great with that. You can also do it in digital display. And then you can create a custom audience from your new email list and target them and their friends. You can also retarget your site users through Facebook as well as digital display. We're kind of leaving that out of this $5,000 budget because you might not reach it. And then radio ads, you can optimize. In this case, sorry, radio, I'm going to lower your budget a little bit, and I'm going to cut my ads from 30 seconds to 15 seconds and change them so they're only during drive time to see if that increases my ROI. And your email newsletter, we're going to do A/B testing of subject lines, see if we can open the get the open rate higher, and we're going to change creatives. So those are all things that now you can optimize as you go. After again testing your ROI and seeing, in this case, we were shooting for 12,500 and on that $5,000 budget. But here's the catch. Whenever I speak to a retailer, especially one who's been in business for a long time, I say, what's your when someone buys from you once, and restaurants are notorious for this, you say, okay, what is your average sale to them? And they'll give you the number, and they'll say, okay, for this sofa case, okay, our average sales were more like $1,400 per person, and we sold 10 or whatever. I'm sorry, $1,250 per person. Sold 10. Okay, but what's your lifetime value of them? In most cases, if you like an experience as a customer, if you like an experience with a retailer, you're going to go back. If you go back those 3 times, all of a sudden, that 12,500 becomes 55. Anywhere from $37,000 to $70,000. This chart was actually from that CMO survey showing that where first sale value was and where lifetime value is. And that's why I said at the beginning that lots of the online direct consumer advertisers are spending so much in marketing and monitoring their ROI and even going negative on the first because they know that their lifetime value is much stronger. I mean, if you're looking at subscription businesses, wineries, if you're looking at getting someone to join your club, your wine club, maybe you take a little bit of a loss on the first one because now you're going to get them for 18 months. So the last thing, just in summary, is we're looking at, if it's too long, didn't read, set your marketing budgets at where you want to be, not where you are today. Look at a year out or 2 years out, and especially if we're planning into 2021, you don't want to use 2020 as your basis for what your sales were and setting your, if, let's say it's 5 to 7.5%, using that as your number, you're going to have nothing for next year. You need to say, okay, next year we're going to get back to 2019 numbers and then some. So we're going to set our marketing budget at that number and higher. While you look at your overall annual budget, you need to set shorter SMART goals. So instead of saying, this is a common thing that we see all the time with our advertisers, is they say, I'm going to run a quarter-page print ad every Sunday for the entire year. I'm going to run X number of digital impressions for the entire year. And then let's talk next year and see if it worked. Come on, let's really work to create a solution to a specific problem and set a SMART goal. Measure everything you can that makes sense. but understand that not everything can be measured. So just measure those important things. And over time, actually, you might find that certain measurements don't make sense to track anymore. Maybe phone calls aren't for your business. Maybe you're not seeing in terms of your Google Analytics and the in terms of the attributions there that we talked about with print. Maybe those aren't working anymore. Doesn't mean that print doesn't have value. It just doesn't mean that that's how you should measure anymore. So you can but optimize in steps. Don't make too many assumptions. Don't make wholesale changes and say, okay, that first one went really well. Now I'm going to change everything on it and try for a better ROI. Obviously, pick those things that are best and make slight tweaks your optimizations. Try new things, and then just keep doing it. Try, rinse, repeat. All right. Sarah, any other questions?
We do. We have one question. Any tips for video and tracking that, especially when not using paid ads?
Ooh. When not using paid ads, I mean, you want to see how many people you're reaching, how many people are viewing it in whole, and how many seconds they're viewing it and where they're dropping off. I find that truthfully, try a short campaign or a small campaign on YouTube, and you can actually see those monitoring. You don't have to spend a huge amount of money, but you can just get a little bit of information about how long people are seeing it, how much time they're doing, and if they're doing any click-throughs. So, I mean, Google lets you do deals. What, $100 you can spend? $25 actually, I think might be their minimum.
You can actually track it pretty easily even without spending money. And
Yeah.
in the body of the description of the video, you can even put tracking links like bit.ly links, see who's clicking through to
Right.
that. Maybe use a custom landing page that's only for that video. So just kind of think outside the box on how you can track at least the engagement. It'll be a little
Right.
harder to track unless you send them to a landing page where they fill out some information. It'll be a little harder to track it to a sale, but you can at least see if people are engaging with it, clicking through, that kind of stuff.
Right. Good stuff. Anything else?
That was the only question I had. Unless
Okay.
anybody wants to throw one in Q&A real quick. Give it a minute. Sorry, I'm
Okay.
looking at them over on my tablet, so I keep looking to
Sure.
the
No,
side.
that's fine. So again, if anyone has any questions, feel free to reach out, send me an email. And I think the person who had the question about spending their setting up their budget for their $15 to $20 million business, definitely feel free to. If I can get more information from you, I can advise a little more. We do a lot of, by the way, we do a lot of advising for our clients at no cost. We just want to really, be part of the community, and then hey, maybe they'll buy something from us later. But we're not hardcore hard sales in that. So jose.delcastillo@pressdemocrat.com, and then if you reach out, as Sarah said, they're going to put this up as a PDF. You'll have my info there.
All right. Well, I don't have any other additional questions. So thank you again, Jose, for presenting today. We really appreciate
Sure.
it. Thank all of you for
Thank you.
taking time out of your busy schedules for joining us for this program. We hope you enjoyed it and got something out of it. For our members, if you go to our website, pmgnorthbay.org, click on Member Portal, you should be able to log in. And in there, you'll see in the next day or two, we'll get the slide deck up and the recording of this program so you can look at it at a later date and review it if you'd like. Also, the last program we did in May is up there as well for you to review. We apologize for the fuzzy slide, so I put a link in the chat for a PDF of that, and that slide deck will be in the member portal for our members as well. And we hope you will join us at our next Lunch and Learn, which is October 29th. And we'll be talking about turning the short-term strategies that a lot of businesses had to implement in 2020 and how to turn them into long-term strategies going into 2021. So hope you'll be able to join us. And until then, we'll see you then. Thank you.